3, 2, 1, go.
Alright, welcome to another character crash course with Nomad Sculpt. I'm using Nomad Sculpt 1.90, so you want to be using that or higher. So let's go ahead and bring in our reference image, and the links will be in the description where you can download this image. So you just want to go to this little option here, reference image, and you tap on the image. You can import photos. So you want to save it to your laptop or to your iPad or tablet as a photo. So you tap the photo and then add. I'm just going to tap on this negative space here so we get back to this window, transform, and now we can kind of move it around to where we want. I'm going to put it right here. And then tap on the screen again to go back to sculpting mode. So we have our sphere here. This is our default sphere. If you want to know where all your shapes, all your 3D meshes are going to go, it's going to be right here in this little scene menu. So we see sphere here. So first thing we'll do, let's just delete it. And let's add a new sphere. So these are primitives. You notice that these are all yellow. If I tap sphere, we have a bigger sphere here, but the size is just much smaller. If you see, the size is much smaller than the old one. That's why we deleted that one and brought this one in. So it's still a primitive. So what primitive means is that you just have to validate before you can actually use it in your project. So that's all it means. So let's just go ahead and hit validate. And now we can use all of our tools, which are over here on the right, this little icon. So let's use the gizmo. The gizmo is like our controller. So there's a big orange ring. This is going to be the size. And notice that I do a tap with 2 fingers to undo. I'm on the iPad, that's all I've used Nomad, so I'm not sure on other tablets, but you can tap with 3 fingers to redo, tap with 2 fingers to undo, just like Procreate. So we have these little green and red arrows, so those are for movement. And just remember it's 3D, so when you spin it like this, there's also the blue one that goes towards you and away from you. This little snap cube up here, let's just tap this. So that will let you know where you are in space. So we're just going to keep it in front for now. And if you don't see this grid, make sure you hit grid down here. So we have the grid, and you'll notice, let's hide this sphere. So let's tap the scene and the little eye. So you'll notice that there's a green line and a red line. So just keep track of those because we're going to make a little floor and we're going to use the red line. That's going to be like the floor. So that's like your base level. That's your horizon line. All right, let's unhide our sphere. So using our gizmo, let's use the green arrow and just bring this up a little bit. We can shrink it with this orange ring. We'll shrink it to about there. Okay, let's hit front so we can see our grid again. Okay, so let's make a little floor. So we're just going to line it up with this bottom part of our red line here. So go to the scene, add, and I like to do a cylinder. So we're going to use this green node. It's still a primitive. You notice we have validate here, but we can still do a few things with the shape. So let's just move this down to the red line, scroll up a bit, and we'll just move this up as well. Okay, let's go in a little close. Let's hit front so we can get our grid back. And we'll just do it kind of like this. So let's tap these 3 dots. The post subdivision, let's just move that up too. And for the division, let's just kind of scroll down a little bit, just so it's a little bit more round. I just like that aesthetically. So now let's hit validate. And now we have like a little round platform. So everything looks good for now, but there's 2 things that I like to do. I like to change from white to a more clay-like look. So let's tap this little sun here and change from lit PBR to matte cap. I use PXG clay. If yours isn't by default on PXG clay, just tap here and just find PXG clay. Also, if your shapes seem to be very blocky, then go to this little material window, this little circle, and check out smooth shading. Some might be off by default and it might look like this, very blocky and pixelated. But I like to sculpt with auto, and for me, auto is on. I think you can find in the settings somewhere to make it automatically be on, but That can be a bit confusing, so just remember, if it looks blocky, it's probably just smooth shading, so you might have to just make sure you put it to on. Okay, so now we have the platform, and it's all lined up with this red line, so we can turn off the grid. We don't need it anymore. So we'll just tap down here, grid, and it's a lot more pleasing to me when I don't have the grid on. And notice I always hit front once I'm ready to like kind of reset. So the next thing we want to do is let's make the body, and we're going to use this sphere. So let's tap on the sphere. Let's go up here and just rename it so we don't get lost. So we'll tap on the three dots, name, and let's just name it body. And we might as well rename the cylinder floor. Okay, let's do a quick save. So let's press the folder, save, and I'm just going to name him Bear Guy, Bear Kid, Bear Boy. Okay, so again, we're going to tap on the sphere, and we're just bring our tools up here. And the first thing that we want to do to make it easier, we want to use symmetry. So symmetry, obviously, if you have one side, it's going to match it on the others. And there's lots of different ways you can use symmetry. And by default, like here's the symmetry option. By default, it's on X. You can see this line. What'll make it easier is just scroll down and hit show line. So that way you can see it on whatever piece you're on, you can see the symmetry line. So essentially, if I use the move tool, and you can try this out as well, you'll see there's two dots, so it's symmetrical. So whatever's happening on one side will happen on the other side. So in the symmetry, there's other options you can use. Obviously, if you change this, there's different, there's different colors and different lines. So that'll just change what reacts symmetrically. So that's all that is. We're going to keep it on X, so you don't have to worry about that. The only thing that we're going to do is add the Z, and let's just hit local. So really quickly, Z adds a blue line. So instead of the line going this way, now it's going this way. So if I tap on it, now there's 4 dots. So it's not only doing left and right, but it's also doing front and back. And the reason why we did local is because if it's on world, then the center is always going to be here. It's always going to be going off the center. But if you do local, then everything is just condensed to whatever shape you're on. So they're all different too. So if I go here, it's still on world. But if I want to just mess with the symmetry for just the sphere, then that's why I'm using local. But if that was confusing, don't worry. Just go to symmetry, hit X and Z, and local. So now let's use move. Let's make it pretty big. And what we want to do is pull up. So if I go to the front and I pull this up a bit, let's make this even bigger. So if I pull it up, I just want to make it kind of smooth. So I'm just making like this sort of shape here. And now I turn to the left and I kind of just pull it in the middle. I want to make sort of like a teardrop. I always feel like teardrop bodies are like very cute bodies. So that's all we're doing here. We're just making like a teardrop. So once you have a decent teardrop, just make sure you turn it on both sides and try to get the top, very teary. And even the bottom you can bring up a little bit. Okay, something like that. So once you're happy, let's just move it up a little bit. So we'll hit front, let's use the gizmo, and we'll just move it up to give him room for his legs. So we'll just move it up a little bit. And maybe we can shrink it a little bit too. Okay. So now we have a body, and it looks pretty good. So the next thing we want to do is we want to give him a little curve. So we want to push this forward. But remember, we messed with the symmetry. So let's go here and let's just tap on the blue. So now all we have is is X. So we want to have X and local. So now we're just going to use move again and just push it from, notice here, we're not looking at the front, we're looking at the left side. So all we have to do is just make sure that the radius is quite big. That just moves it more smoothly. And we'll just push it forward. You can pull the front out a little bit too. Okay, so I'm just pushing this kind of forward so that it's sort of like a little belly. So the back is a little bit straighter, and then he just has like a little belly in the front. Okay. And another thing that I do usually when I'm sculpting is I like to smooth everything out. So let's just use the smooth tool. We can make it a little bit bigger. And we'll just kind of smooth this out. So that'll just keep everything looking kind of clean. But I try to do that often. So we'll just hit front again. Okay, looking good so far. So let's go ahead and add some legs. So for legs, I like to just use spheres. So we'll tap here, add, and sphere, and let's rename this legs. So we'll tap the 3 dots and just name it legs. Okay, so we still haven't validated. We're not going to do that just yet. Okay, so let's shrink it a little bit. Let's hit front. Let's use our gizmo. So now you see that we have the sphere here. It's quite big. So let's just shrink it with this orange ring. And we'll move it up a little bit. And let's move it over to one side. So this is going to be like his leg. So I'll move it so it's like a little bit even. Let's move it up a little bit. And let's take this little red sphere, this little red node, and we'll just squash it together. Okay, something like that. We can squash it a little bit this way too, so it's not so big. And then we want to move it up so it's a little more smooth with the side of his body. So we'll move it up, move it over. And you can adjust the size until you get it how you like it. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit wider maybe, push it in. And you can use it up here to make him a little taller too. So I think that looks pretty good. I'll make it a little thicker. Okay, I kind of like that. Now the only thing that I don't like is that where this hits, where his like the top of his leg is, there's a little too much space. So let's just go back to here, use move, and I'm just going to kind of move it up a little bit. Yeah, something like that. And I'll just pull it forward a little bit too. There we go. So we just want something like this. You can kind of move this out too a little bit. The little backside. Okay, there we go. So we just want something where it's like a nice curve. Because we're using simple shapes and we want to just keep these nice curves. So I think that looks pretty good. So now we want to do the other leg, and that'll be really easy if we tap this sphere and just hit mirror, because then it mirrors to the other side. So now we have a mirror, we have both of his little legs. So now let's move all of these down. So we'll tap on the scene menu and we'll just tap on the mirror and tap on the body. So now we have all of these except for the floor, and we can use our gizmo and we can just move them down. And I think I like the legs a little chubby. We'll leave a little space. So I'm thinking something like that is pretty good. So now I'm going to tap left and we move this down. So if we hit solo, we can tell we need to like trim it. So his legs are right on the floor, the bottom of the legs. So let's go ahead and validate, and then let's use trim. Yours might be in a little bit different spot. You might have to find it. So we're going to use trim, and then we'll come over here and use rectangle. So trim obviously just trims things, and these are just different ways to trim. You can use a line, you can use a polygon, lasso, you can play around with those. I like using rectangle because then you just make a rectangle and whatever's in the white will get trimmed. So I don't want to bring it right up to this because then you can see the bottom and that looks ugly. See that there? So what I like to do is just do it a little bit below. So maybe around there so that you really can't see the bottom too much. And we can smooth that out later. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. And he also has like two little feeties, two little round bits for like the toes. I always like to do that, so that's pretty easy as well. Let's go here and rename these so we don't get confused. So we have this mirror here, and we're just going to rename that legs. I'm going to rename this legs as well. I just like to keep everything in order. So we can go to legs, we can actually add a sphere and it'll add inside this mirror. So that's why this is red, because it's a mirror. Remember, we only have one leg, but we mirrored it to the other side. So now we have a sphere in there as well. We can go ahead and validate it. And the reason why we don't have to mirror it, because we added it to the leg mirror. So now it's already a mirror itself. So once we shrink it and move it over, it's just going to react like a mirror. There's going to be 2 of them. So these are the little toes. So we'll bring it up to the front. And as I'm doing this, you can see how you can make different types of feet, shoes. Even as I'm moving this over, it just kind of looks like he has like some big shoes on, which is actually kind of cute. So you can make it as big or as small as you want. So you can actually shrink it this way, or you can shrink it this way. So it's like kind of like flatter. And I'll move it sort of towards the front. I'll make it a little bit smaller maybe. I'll flatten it a little bit. And I kind of want to move it so it's, see how you can see that it's round? So I want to push it back and maybe go like this, just so it's not, you don't see that it's like a round sphere. Maybe I'll push it in a little bit more, make it a little bit smaller. So again, let's go to the front. So I think we're liking this so far. So let's go ahead and trim it. So we'll take trim, and you can use X-ray too. X-ray is really cool. It's a new thing that you can kind of see what you're doing. So this is the part that we're going to, oops. This is the part that we're going to trim. So I just hit X-ray down here, and you can actually just see what you trim, which I think is really cool. We turn X-ray off. Okay, so now he has his little toes, and let's go ahead and label this toes. All right, great job so far. So now let's add his big old head. So we'll add, but you want to be careful because right now it's going to add in the mirror. So I'm just going to tap body. So that way when we add the sphere, it doesn't go into that mirror. So we'll add a sphere. We'll use our gizmo. We'll move it up. Let's make this a little bit smaller so we can see. So we'll move it up to around where we want the head to be. So something like this. I think it's good. So we can go ahead and validate it, and let's go ahead and name it now. So we have the sphere here, 3 dots, name, and we'll just call it head. Also, we want to make sure that we're saving every so often. I don't have autosave on, so I have to save pretty often. Okay, so now the top, the front of his face is sort of flat. So I'm just going to take move, make it really big, and I'm just going to flatten the front of the face. Now remember, by default, this, you can see that the symmetry is on. So this is the symmetry. If I was to turn it off, you can see there's only one thing now. So we want to make sure that symmetry is on. So we'll just turn it to the left side, and then we're just going to flatten out the front part of the face. Okay, something like that. And I'm also going to kind of make the top part a little bit wider. So we'll just kind of pull up a little bit on the top part of the face to make it a little bit wider. Okay, I kind of like that. All right, so I think that's pretty good for the head. So now let's go ahead and add some ears. So ears are really simple as well. So we'll just go here, add, and we'll add a sphere. So now we'll just move the sphere up to where his ears would be using the gizmo. Go up, over. We'll use the orange ring to shrink it. And now we can hit mirror, so if we can kind of see what they look like, both of them together. So we'll move them down. Let's move to the side, and let's figure out where we want the ears. The only thing different that I don't like that I did in the original one is I made them kind of long. I kind of want to just make them more bearish. So here's how I'll do that. So I'm going to make them maybe a little bit bigger. I'll move them up to probably around there. So let's validate. So now if you go here, you have a mirror and you have the sphere. So let's go ahead and name the mirror ears. We want to keep everything nice and organized. So ear, and I'm going to name that sphere inside of it, ear. Okay, so now there's nothing to be confusing. So I'm going to go down to this ear, use move, make it a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to flatten the front part of this as well. So if we look at it, I don't see the red line on this ear. So if I'm pressing it, it's not really going to be symmetrical. even though it's in a mirror. So let's go here and just put local. So now when we tap on this, it's symmetrical. So now we can make a nice symmetrical flattening, just like we did the face. So I'm just going to flatten this front part. Just kind of trying to keep it nice and even, plump. Pull the bottom part out a little bit. Okay, so something like that. So now I'll just go ahead and take the gizmo and just kind of move them into place where I want them to be. Maybe you want to stretch it a little bit. I don't like how the side is curving in so much, so I'm going to make them a little bit shorter. Okay, I think I kind of like that. That's kind of cute. But you can make the ears, you know, however you want. There's also something that might help. If I take the head and make it big, and you know how like the front part is sort of flat, but if you look from the top, it's got this shape. So you can also just make the head a little bit wider towards the back. But things like that are very helpful, obviously, when you're dealing with 3D. So now I just want to make the shape a little more pleasing. So now we're just kind of, you know, just making the head a little bit more round and pleasing, keeping it nice and soft. Okay, I kind of like that. Let's see. What if I want to turn the ears a little bit? If I make them a little bit bigger, rounder. I like that as well. But yeah, I can really get lost when I'm sculpting. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, great job so far. So let's go ahead and give him some arms. Okay, so we have the ears. I'm going to do a quick save. And let's add some arms. So now we'll do add sphere. Let's go ahead and bring it out of this mirror. So we'll just long press it and bring it up. This is going to be arms. 3 dots, arms. Okay, so now we'll just use our gizmo. And if you can't see the gizmo, there's a little hidden one right here. Sometimes that can be a little tricky. I don't know why it's so hidden. But we'll move it up and over. And then shrink with the orange ring. And we'll kind of put it in just armish position. So let's go ahead and mirror. That way we can just see both at the same time. And then we can validate. I want to use the move tool, and I just want to kind of sculpt an arm type shape. So I'll just push down on the top and kind of pull. Okay, kind of like this. Now they're very big, so you just use the gizmo again and you can shrink. You can kind of move it into the area that you want it. So we turn it to the side, and then we can just use this to kind of shrink it up that way. And also, this is a fun little tip that you can do. So let's say that we kind of like the shape of the arm, but we want to just rotate it forward. If we rotate it, it's going from the middle, so that's not really that helpful. So this is just something to think about. You can always change the pivot. The pivot is the center point. The pivot is where things are going to move. So right now the center point's there, so the center point stays and everything moves around that. But if you move the pivot, so if you tap pivot and the gizmo gets a little bit lighter, and let's say you move this up to where, let's say our shoulder would be, kind of thing. So let's say it goes into his arm right at this spot right there. And then you hit the pivot again. So now we've changed the pivot. So now if you rotate it on the screen, it moves according to the pivot. So just something to think about. Pivot is very useful if you're trying to do certain things. And obviously you can of course still move it and just adjust it as you like. Push it out a little bit more, maybe a little bit more. You can just continue to adjust the arms until they're just how you want it. Now I want the arms to be very small when they get to the body. So I'm going to be doing like a lot of like pushing and pulling. Make it a little bit smaller. So a lot of pushing and pulling until they sort of get small at the ends. because as you push and pull, it's just going to get a little bit more sharp. And I want to move them right into kind of where the shoulder is, even a little up where the head is. So something like that I think is pretty good. Okay, so one thing that makes it a little bit easier making the fingers is you can take the flatten tool, and on the arm, I like to flatten out a little section that'll kind of be the palm. So let's just say we use the flatten tool. The radius, we'll put it around 70. Intensity, I'll put it up a little bit. And we're just going to make a flat section. And we can kind of use that to be the palm. So we'll take smooth. I just like to smooth that out before I do anything. So now we have a little bit of a flat section. Okay, so since he's like a little bear, let's give him some little bear claws. So let's go here. Let's add a sphere. And we can go ahead and validate it. So we'll use the gizmo. We'll move it up, over, shrink it. And we want to place it kind of where the thumb would go, so sort of in this area. And give yourself some time. Sometimes it's a little hard to maneuver the gizmo to where your other 3D object is. At least it is for me. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good area for the thumb. So it'll be the thumb here, and then we'll have the 3 other fingers sort of in that area. So let's tilt it so we can see that blue arrow. Or either any of the arrows, as long as they're pointing forward. All we want to do is just use the little blue node to kind of stretch it out. So that's all we want to do. So we stretch it out like that. I'll make mine maybe a little bit smaller. Okay, and I'll use the little arrow to just move it out because we kind of want it on the end. So now let's take move, and we'll just go from the bottom and we'll just push it up so that there's a curve in it. Just like that. So now let's tap gizmo again. And you see, since we moved it, the gizmo was not in the center. So let's do pivot, center, pivot. So now it's just a matter of bringing it down, back into the hand. So you think that's pretty good. And so the flat part, sometimes I like to have the flat part facing sort of where we make this flat section. So I might just rotate it a little bit that way, kind of open it up a little bit. So you can just use these things to rotate. But something like that I think is pretty good for a thumb-ish. Maybe we'll make it a little bit smaller. But you can adjust the size and things like that once you sort of figure out what you want. But I think I like that. I do want to open it up maybe a little bit more. But I like something like that. So now we're going to use this to just clone and make the other fingers. So we'll go here. We have this. Let's just make this the finger. And we want to clone, so we can tap here and hit clone. So now we have finger 1. So let's move this over. And obviously we need to make the fingers kind of going like this, this, and like this. So now it's just a matter of getting it there. So we want to rotate. And I accidentally have it on align, so I'm going to take it off of align. Align is so if it's in the front, align will always make it go left and right, up, down, back, forward. If you don't have it on align, then it's going to just be aligned with whatever the shape is. So I shouldn't have had mine on align actually. So let's move this back, and you can actually use this middle to kind of move it a little more easily sometimes. So I'm going to rotate. I kind of want this to be sort of like this. Yeah, so I think that's pretty good. Maybe rotate it a little bit this way, something like that. And now I'm going to hit clone here. I'll move this down. And now I just have to reposition it, but we want to use this flat area as our palm. So we'll move it up. Rotate it a little bit more. And I want to keep the flat part sort of in line with that little palm. Like this. And then we do the same thing, clone. So we move it down. It's the pinky, so I might shrink it a little bit. And then just, again, just kind of do the same thing. I'll tilt it this way because we want them to kind of be moving away from each other. Move it into the hand a little bit more. Again, maybe I'll make it a little smaller. It's the pinky. And I'll just kind of shift it a little bit forward. So something like that. Okay, so once you have all the fingers in your position, and take your time to get them how you want them. So you can take all the fingers, join them. So now we have all the fingers together. Add, mirror. And then it mirrors them to the other side. And you can still adjust. You can still adjust them if you want. Just go to this finger, tap here, and then hit separate. And it can separate all the fingers so you can adjust each one as you need. We'll go ahead and just go back. Okay, I'm going to rename this mirror fingers. Okay, so again, fingers, if the mirror is just, if you take this out of the mirror, then you only have one. So just so we're aware of what these red parts are, they are all the mirrors. All right, great job so far, guys. So let's do his little snoot, his nose, his teeth, eyes. Really easy stuff. Okay, so now let's go back to the body just so we can add another sphere, and it's nice and high up here. So let's tap the 3 dots. Let's name it snoot. Okay, we'll use our gizmo. Move it up. Okay, and now we'll just kind of position it. I'm going to shrink it down. We kind of want to put it in the middle. And as you can even see here, there's lots of different shapes and sizes that you can do for this. Okay, I'm going to put it kind of up in the middle. Maybe a little smaller. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. And I'm just going to, so I don't have to continue to move up and shape these spheres, I'm going to do a little shortcut. So I'm going to take the snoot, clone it, and this can be nose. So I'm going to rename it nose. And then just hide it. And then I'll clone this, and this can be eyes. So it's hidden. I'll clone that. So this can be eye dots is what I call them. The little dots like kind of above the eyes that I just always do. And then we'll clone this and we'll name this teeth. You know, I always name them teethies. Okay, so now we have all of those other little things, but we can concentrate on each one. So let's validate the snoot, and let's use move. And I think I want to kind of make this part, the top part, coming out a little bit, maybe. And then maybe I will just make it a little bit wider, make this part a little bit shorter, maybe push this down a little bit. Maybe I want the front a little more squarish. So I'm just kind of manipulating the shape so it doesn't just look like a sphere. But you can kind of play around and get whatever you like for that. Maybe I'll make the bottom a little bit flatter. Seems to be a little bit flatter in my practice one. So I think that looks good. So now let's take the nose. We'll tap on the nose and we'll just validate it. And then we can take the gizmo and let's just kind of position it roughly. So we'll move it up. We'll move it kind of up here. And maybe I'll shrink it this way. Okay, so now the nose looks pretty good, but we need to make it flat on the front. So let's just use the, not the flatten tool, let's use the move tool. Kind of like we were moving everything else. We'll just kind of flatten the front a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, and then I'm just gonna kind of even out the top part. So I'm just gonna kind of pull that down. We can maybe pull this up a little bit. Kind of have a nice little nose shape. And you can kind of experiment. I think I want the sides maybe a little bit more square. Oh, you know what? I have my nose kind of the opposite. So let's do that. Let's make this part bigger and this part a little bit smaller. Sometimes I have reference and I fail to use it, but that's normal. Okay, so I like that. I think it looks cute. We have a nice little curve, kind of, you know, again, I like to follow the lines. Okay, great. So let's make his little eyes. So let's go to eyes, we'll unhide it, and we'll hit mirror, and we'll just use the gizmo, and we can move them left and right. Obviously, these eyes are really huge, so we'll just use the big orange ring to shrink them. Maybe we'll move them over a little bit, maybe a little bit smaller. And the reason why I'm making them so small is because I like the giant size of the head, the giant size of the nose with the really small eyes. So there's little things like that that can just make it very interesting. And you can also try different shapes out. You can go like this, and you can kind of move it so he has, I'm just going to do this just to show you. You can validate it. You can take move, and then you can kind of bend this up to give like those sort of, you know, kind of kawaii, really cute eyes. You can kind of shrink it. So you can make lots of different kinds of eyes and things like that for lots of different expressions. You can practice like, you know, things like this, which I actually think is really cute. I might just leave it like that. So you can have spheres, or you can have, you know, kind of more fun eyes. You can kind of stretch it if you want the eyes to be a little bit wider, but I think that's actually really cute. So I might just leave it like that. Okay, so let's do eye dots. So eye dots, and this is just something that I just do for fun. I'm going to go ahead and bring the sphere up and over. And animals tend to have like these little kind of like white spots. There's little spots like above their eyes, sort of in this area. And I just like to make them. So I'll just kind of manipulate it. And I'll hit mirror and validate. And I might use drag. Drag and move are very similar, but drag I like to do because it's a little bit more detail oriented, versus move where you can get nice, big, smooth movements. Drag is a little more, it's not so smooth. So if I was making something that I wanted really round and I wanted to move it, I would use move. If I wanted to make little bumps in it, I might use drag. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, how do I want to manipulate this? I think maybe a little shape like this. So I'll use drag to have just like a little shape like that. I just find them cute, so I always add them in my characters. Let's make it a little bit smaller, and I might have to pull it up so you can see a little bit more of it in the surface. So let's make him a little bottom lip. So let's take teeth and let's clone it as well, and this we'll just change one of them to lip. Okay, so now we can unhide that. So now we have like a little bottom lip that actually looks pretty good. But maybe we'll just shrink it and move it down so there's a little bit of a difference. So if I squash it and bring it down, and maybe we'll make it a little bit thinner this way. You can try tilting it a little bit. Maybe not tilting it. I think I like it not tilted. Yeah, I think I like something like that. I think that looks cute. So you can figure out ways. Let's do X-ray so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So you can figure out how you want the bottom lip to actually look. And there's lots of different ways that you can, you know, kind of make it look like however you want. But one thing that's interesting that I might do is validate, and then I might use move, and you can actually pull up to kind of make it flow with the rest of his little snoot there. So you can do that as well. Maybe I'll just take smooth and just kind of smooth it out a little bit. But I think that looks pretty cute. Okay, so next, let's add his little teeth in there. So we'll take teeth, we'll unhide it. We'll use our gizmo and let's pull it out to the front. So this I'm just going to shrink, flatten with the blue node, like that. And that's pretty much what I do with teeth. So let's hit mirror, and then we'll move it off to one side so we have that nice mirror. So now we'll move it back to the body and down, and we'll kind of get it in like toothless position. They're still a little bit big, so I'm going to make them a little bit smaller, maybe flatten them a little bit more, push it right up against there. And I think I want them to be kind of close together. And I might shrink them this way so that it's a little more, they're a little more cohesive. I kind of like that. If you want to add other sort of teeth, like, so let's name this teeth. The easy thing to do is just clone. So you can hit clone, and now you have these other ones. Then you can just move these over and just adjust them and just kind of make them flow with the shape of the, you know, the lower lip. So I'll push them in a little bit more. Maybe I want to make them smaller, but maybe I want to make them a little bit more like fangs. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I turn them so that it's a nice little semicircle, like so. And then maybe I'll just go like this and then just extend them a little bit. So if you want to make like little fangs, you can do it that way. But one thing I don't like is you can see the sort of top part of the teeth. So to fix that, I might take this little bit up here, his little snoot. So I might make it smaller, and then I might just pull this down a bit. And by pulling that down, it'll make a little underside so that this line is kind of straight, because you don't want to see like the top part of the teeth. So I think that looks a little bit better because I just, you know, just pulled that down a little bit. So I think that looks a little bit more cute. I like it. I think it looks adorable. Okay, so let's add a few more little details to him. So let's take the ears and let's use mask. And we're just going to make like a little puff. So essentially, we can just use the mask and just draw kind of like a shape like this on the middle inside. And then we can use the mask tool. So we'll just tap here, and we have thickness. So we have plus and minus, and you know, this might look a little confusing, but right now I have 0.134 and 0.9 on the bottom. But when you move this, you can see this little shape. So that's like your preview. So that's actually really useful. So now we can kind of see what it's doing. So if we go back here, we move this height around. So we're going to create that shape essentially from the mask. So I really like that, but I want it to be really smooth. So I'm going to move this smoothness up like so. And it looked pretty good. So now we're just going to hit extract. And I think it should be on shell by default. So we'll just hit extract. So now we have this little sort of puff shape. So let's do clear all, because that clears the mask. And now I'm just going to use move. And we're just going to take this shape and just make it a little bit more round, like so. And then I'll take the gizmo, and I think I just want to push it a little bit more into the ear. Maybe tilt it a little bit, like so. I'll make it a little bit more round on top. I just want it to kind of go with the contour of the ear. So then we have a little something like that. And you can do the same thing with the body. So I'll take mask, I'll hit front, and I'll make a little mask here for his body. So maybe something like that. And we'll go to the mask options. We'll check out how thick it is. So that looks pretty good. And then we'll just hit extract. We'll clear all because it'll clear that mask. And that actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a smooth. And then I'll take move, and I kind of want to push this part back a little bit so it's sort of going under. Maybe pull that out a little bit. And maybe I want to make this a little bit wider here. And you can actually take the body too. I might take the body and move the body up a bit so that we just see this little part that we made. Okay, I'll kind of give it a little smooth, make it look a little bit more natural. Maybe I want to Maybe I don't want it sticking out so far, so I'll just use move and just kind of push it into the body. I'm not too worried about that, the middle part, because once you push it into where you want it, you can always make move a little bit small, and then you can pull this part right from the inside. Okay, I think that looks pretty cute. Pull the top out a little bit so it's nice and round. I decided I want this to move up, so I just kind of just used the move tool and I just sort of pulled it up to kind of go to his little chin. Yeah, never be afraid to like experiment and just change things. So I think that looks a little bit better, and I want to make his little belly button, which I like to do a little swirl. So let's use tool. So let's use curve. Okay, we have it on snap, curve. So what we're going to do is essentially just draw a little swirl here. So maybe around here, and we'll just draw a little swirl like so. And you see it's snapped to the surface, which is what we want. So let's use this little orange node and we'll just make the whole thing smaller. Like this. And now let's kind of minimize. There's a lot of movement in it. So let's just drag some of these nodes together just to kind of get this a little bit smoother, because we don't need all of those nodes. So essentially we just want to position a nice smooth curl. Whoop, you don't want to tap it because then it becomes like a hard edge, or a hard angle, I should say. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. So now I want to make this round. So we're going to tap the little 3 dots, put the post subdivision up to 2, and then drag division X down, and then it'll get nice and round. So maybe that's pretty good. Okay, so now we have it, but it's still a little bit big. I don't really want it that big. So I'm actually going to make the whole thing bigger, which seems counterintuitive, but then I'm just going to use the gizmo and just shrink the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to move it down. So I'm going to hit align just so I can move it straight down, because I kind of want it around there. Oh, the size is actually pretty good. So you might have to go back and forth. Just hit the little line to go back to the nodes, and you can just adjust it as you want, make it as big or as small as you want. I think this is pretty good. So once you have that, I'm going to go ahead and validate. I'll do pivot, center, pivot. Okay, I think this looks pretty good. So now he has his little curly belly button. I always love to make those. All right, let's give him a little tuckus. So we obviously turned him around. We'll add a sphere. We'll use our gizmo, bring it up, shrink, move it over. We'll shrink it a little bit more. Move it down to his little tuckus area, his little buns. So then let's hit mirror. So you can make them as large or as petite as you would like them. Okay, so maybe we'll just do some little buns like this. Maybe I'll make them a little bit wider. We'll go ahead and hit validate. And you can use move if you want to do some contouring. I don't know why I was so excited to say that. Okay, so now he has this little contoured little bum. Looks great. So now let's go ahead and voxel remesh all of the parts that we want together. So there's only certain things that I want to remesh together. Otherwise, it will start to look, it won't look as good. For example, if we try to remesh the arms and the head, it's going to spread out a little bit here, and it's not going to look as clean as it looks now. So let's remesh the head, the ears, the lip, the body, the snoot, the legs, and the buns. So let's remesh all of those together. So let's voxel. You can go here, voxel, and we have the resolution down here. Let's just put it up to like 250. Remesh, multi-resolution will be lost. We'll hit OK. Okay, so now some of these things are remeshed together. So we can take smooth, and now we can just smooth them out. I'll be a little bit delicate down here because I don't want to lose his little butt shape too much. And I can see that I sort of made a mistake at some point in time because his legs is sort of lifted off the ground. So I'm just going to take move and just kind of pull that down a little bit. And then I'll just continue with smooth and just smooth out where the legs come together. Okay. And also smooth, you can smooth the head where the ears come together. Okay, let's smooth this section. Again, I'm being really delicate, the parts where I don't want to lose too much shape. Okay, I think that looks good. We'll just smooth out the rest of the head. And anytime you lose something that, like for example, this part looks like it's missing its mirror. So just find it. You can add the mirror. And then just go ahead and adjust it however you want before you validate. So I'm going to pull this a little bit out here. I think that looks a bit better. Maybe I'll pull this a little down a little bit further. Okay, that looks good. So now once I have that how I like it, I'll just validate and just name this ear puffs. So I'm going to take this little bit and maybe I'll just kind of move it up a little bit. Here we go. So there's a few other details that I might do. So let's take crease and make sure that we're on the, well, I guess it's called buns. We can rename it body. Let's rename it body. So using the crease tool, I like to make the crease in the mouth and especially make the little sections here a little deeper. So we can actually just solo. So we hit solo and on the body, so it just kind of shows just what we're working with. So let's start in the middle. And again, you can hit show line. If you go to Symmetry, you can hit show line if that makes it easier. So we'll start in the middle and we'll kind of just make a shape like this and kind of just pull it off a little bit. Make it a little deeper. So we'll do something like that. So if we hit solo, that looks okay, but it actually looks like I need to drag it. Let's use drag and let's try to make him a little more smiley. So you can actually use drag and take that center point and let's just push it up. And you can use drag and maybe like check the positions until they're where you like them. I kind of like that. I think that looks pretty cute. So then I might smooth it a little bit just so it's a little bit more subtle. But I think I like that a lot. And if you want the lip to be a little bit more defined, you can use like clay is a perfect tool for that. We'll put the radius down a little bit. You can kind of add some clay for his little lip. And then maybe smooth it out a little bit. And for extra credit, you can do something like use spheres, and you can use them for little toe beans, or in his case, little hand beans. And essentially, you would just use spheres, and just put them on the bottom end of each little finger. And once you have all your spheres, you can take them all, join them, add, mirror, and it will put them on the other side. So we'll go ahead and validate and rename it toe beans. All right, so let's finish up nice and strong. So let's go ahead and get rid of our reference image. So we'll tap here and we'll get rid of that image. Let's make sure we do a quick save. And once you have a view you like, I like this view, tap the little camera and hit add view. I like to rename them just numerically, so we'll just put 1 here, and then maybe I'll turn him a little bit and just do a little side view as well. So maybe something like this. Add view, 2. So that way, if you're moving it around, you can always go back to one of these views that you like. So let's switch from Metcap back to Lit PBR. And I like to color everything a neutral color, and that's how we'll light it. So we can just use the color down here. You might have to scroll if you're using like a smaller device, but color should be down here, but we need to select the objects first. I'm pretty happy with everything. I'm just gonna make this easier. So I'm just gonna select all of these things. I'll tap this color, and we just need to make it like a neutral color. I have a color that I always use. It's sort of like a terracotta. So we'll tap that color and then just hit paint all. So now let's go ahead and light it. I'm going to put on post-process. So post-process is here. So I have my quality all the way up. I'm going to tap post-process. You'll see it. This is what it'll look like when it's finished, pretty much. And I have my own settings, DFD2, but this is what mine looks like. You can go ahead and pause if you need. I'll scroll up. But I still might want to adjust some of these a little bit. I'll put this down a bit, maybe move this up a little bit. So it's not so, it's a little too crazy. So I'll just lower this a little bit. Excuse that if you heard that was my stomach. And these are my other settings. But you don't have to really have to worry about that too much right now. Just make it so it looks decent. So let's turn off our ambient lights. That's where these shadows are coming from ambient occlusion. So let's turn off our ambient light. Everything will go black. And now we can add our first light. So I like to have it in the position that you want, because when you add the light, it's always going to be in a certain spot. So I have him facing this way. If I add this light, it's like almost the perfect spot to start a light, to have one light. So usually however I have him posed, that's when I'll start doing the lights. Okay, so here's the light right here. Let's use our gizmo. And it doesn't matter where this light is, but I like to put it where it makes sense. So the light is coming from here. So I'm going to tap align so that I can just move it straight over and straight up, straight over, straight up. And I'm going to change this number to 2. So that's our first light. Looks good. Let's go back to lights and let's name this key. This is our key light. This is the main light. So all the other lights are going to be kind of supplemental to this regular light. So let's hit here, clone, and let's just name this R2. So it's a directional, so we'll just go in, let's see, where do I name it? We press this little pencil, R2. So this is another light coming from the right side. I'm going to move it down. And I want to be able to see the other light as well. So let's just go back here and hit light icons. So now we can see both lights. So this one, I'm going to move, I'm going to rotate. And I'm going to rotate this blue ring. I want it hitting him from this side. Pretty much like this. So now we have our first light and our second light. So now let's go back. We have R2. So let's go ahead and clone R2 and let's rename it Rim. And then we're going to slide this light all the way over here. And then we're going to rotate it with this green. And we just want the rim. So we want a really bright white line right on the rim of our character. I think that looks great. Let's change this to 4. So we'll make that a little bit brighter over there. Maybe we'll even make it a little bit more warm. And let's take the R2 light and make that a little cool. So now we have a few little temperature changes going on with the lights. And last but not least, let's add a light. Let's name this TD for top down. So let's change it from a sunlight to a spotlight. We'll make this smaller so we can watch the action. So we'll move it up. And obviously as a spotlight, the light kind of goes wherever you put it. So we'll rotate it down, and I kind of want this Let's move it a little further up. Kind of find him in the light. Whoop. So right around there, but I want it to be a little bit wider. Okay, that looks good. Oh, I'm going to take it off of a line. That will make it a lot easier. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. Maybe a little more in front of him, so I'm going to move it. But I think that looks pretty good. It's sort of like, oops, sort of lighting up his face a little bit. So you can adjust it, but you just want to give a little bit more light to his face where we want everything to be, you know, where we want all the attention on his little face. Okay, so let's go back to 1. He looks lit pretty well. The shadows are very dark. So let's bring back our environment. Let's see, where does our, there we go. So we're in the light tab. So for environment, we're going to tap this. Now there's lots of different environments. You probably have one of these kind of lights. So they're all going to give it like a sort of a different look. This is my personal environment that I always use. So this is available on my Gumroad and my Patreon. It's just called eye glare environment. But essentially, you just want to turn it down so you're still getting those shadows, whatever environment you use. So you want to turn it down a little bit so you're getting those shadows, but you also want it to fill a little bit of that light too. So I think that's a good medium. And I think that looks really nice. So let's save. Okay, so this looks good. So we have this version. And sometimes what I like to do is do save as and then do new. So then we have a second version. So now with this version, I'll go ahead and color it. I'm just going to color it something very simple for now. But to make it a little bit easier, so we have eyes. Let's go ahead and rename these eyes. Let's validate all of this. So now we're just going to kind of clean this up. So we'll validate, just name it eye dots. Okay. So everything's looking good. So anything that's colored the same, I'm going to go ahead and join. So body, let's see what else. Arms. I think that might be it. So now we're just going to hit join. And I'm just going to rename this body. Okay, so let's figure out a nice color for them. Maybe a nice brown. Maybe something like that. And if you want to make it more glossy, you can, or more rough. I'm going to go somewhere in the middle. So then maybe for this little belly part, we'll do it similar, but maybe just a little lighter. And maybe we'll make it the same color as the little toe, the little hand beans, toe beans. So we'll make those a little lighter as well. The eyes, maybe we want a little darker. And maybe we don't want it too much shine. So we can turn the roughness up, or if we want them glossy, we can do that as well. Looks kind of cute glossy, actually. Oh, and then for the eye dots, it's not a bad color, but maybe we just want to match this color. And to match, you just take this little eyedropper, and then you can match any color that you want. So we'll paint those. We'll tap on the teeth. Teeth can be a little lighter, obviously. They're teeth, teethies. And maybe we'll make them a little glossier. The nose, maybe we want to go a little darker. And I kind of like it that it's shiny like that. Maybe we'll make the nails the same color. We'll make them darker. No, I'll make those a little bit rough. Like so. Oh, and the little belly button, the little belly swirl. Maybe we'll make that. Let's match the color of the belly. And then maybe just a little bit darker. I think I like that. Oop, and these things, maybe we'll just match this belly and make those that same color. Okay, the floor. What color do we want the floor? Maybe we'll make it dark and a little bit rough. Oh, let me do the turntable. So here's turntable. Boom. That's how you do turntable. And also I need to show you how to export as well. So if you want to export this as an image, which is what I'll do, just tap here, go back to 1. Make sure you save before you try and export. So you always want to save. Go down to render. We'll do a transparent background, screen, and then you export PNG. And then once you export, all you have to do is save. And I hit transparent background. That way, when I make this thumbnail, I can add whatever color I want to the back. And then you can just save it here. And we'll send it to my computer. And that's pretty much it. You have this little tuchus. You can add a little tail or something if you want. Again, lots of things that you can do to make these characters pop. Feel free to, you can paint them. So if you want to paint something on the face, just use paint, you know, like pink things on the cheeks or something like that. So feel free to decorate them, have fun with it. I hope you like this crash course. I need to start, I'm gonna try to focus mostly on these tutorials and crash courses because these are what do the best. And I just have so much fun making them. And I love to see what you guys make when you tag me in your posts on like Instagram and things like that. So let me know what you think. Have fun with it. Write something in the comments, say what's up, have fun. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to go more in depth, then definitely check out my Skillshare classes where I am a top teacher. I have about 50 classes, both Procreate and Nomad Sculpt. I also have a few classes on Udemy, so if you want to learn more, or you just like my style, you like the way I teach, you want to support me, those are some other places that you can do it. Thanks again, keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video.